Hello. Happy Monday. We're kind of sticking to true crime with the Hayden situation, but I really wanted to come up and talk about it. Hayden Panettiere, I think is how you say her last name. Hey Sage. She has passed away. I'm sure you've heard it's all over the internet, all over everything. Um, but mainly, I think it's important because we all kind of grew up with her, right? Like on Titans, Bring It On, a bunch of other shows and in the media. But she also dealt with postpartum. That's what kind of made me want to cover it. She actually really struggled with that, and she talks about it in her book that she just released, her memoir, I think, in March. Um, so considering we're covering Lindsay Clancy, yes, we did. Yeah, very sad story. I thought it was just relevant to cover Hayden and Lindsay as Lindsay's, more true crime, and we're seeing, how everyone's reacting to the postpartum and mental health, although that's been a thing forever. I think it just needs to be accepted more and talked about more. And things need to change with all of that, the postpartum and the mental health care and it all being accessible, to get help. So I thought it would be interesting. Yeah, it's really sad. As of right now, I heard about it last night, but I don't think they knew very much last night. I'm assuming now it says what we're gonna do is just gonna watch a couple clips. She actually did a podcast with Jay Shetty, I think his name is. And she's been through a lot. Like, she grew up in the spotlight. I think she started, like, 11 months old, her first project or something, like, crazy like that. She talked about struggling with postpartum, which led her to struggle with alcohol, which led her to not have custody of her child, um, her decision because she needed to get better. And also, I think of the trauma from everything. We can go into a whole thing here and get into Epstein and get into Hollywood and the Perez Hiltons of the world and Britney Spears's and Michael Jackson's, Lindsay Lohan's, Amanda Bynes. Clearly, there's a lot of trauma, I think, in that industry, and she struggled with it. Hayden did. She was very open about it too. I have actually followed her. We're true crime here, so we don't really have much to do talking in that about that stuff. But I do like to cover pop culture stuff that I think is important. So she struggled also with the death of her brother. He had, I think it ended up being heart issues, which I'm not sure. I don't think they've released her cause of death. A lot of people are saying that it was an OD. Um, she also struggled with that, and we're going to hear about all of this. She struggled with her mom being her momager, which also I think is so sad. And then she also struggled with rape and being in the industry, sexual harassment, um, and being a star, you know. She's very open about it. So I want to watch that podcast. And then I think there's like a 7-minute clip of a recent interview. Oh, and she was in an abusive relationship as well. The platform is the most mental health savvy. Yeah, yeah, I think it's really important to just understand and see that, postpartum is a thing. Um, and it's a big struggle, and I don't although that's not necessarily what, caused her death, but I think it all together, the trauma, the fame, the brother, the mother, the drugs, the alcohol, the postpartum, the abusive relationship. She was in a really abusive relationship, actually. He ended up, I think, going to jail 2 or 3 times. Um, I can't think of his name. I think it's Brian Hickerson. She talks about it in her book, and, it's been a thing because 'cause it's been all over the news. There was an incident where they were outside of a bar and something happened. Um, yeah, Brian Hickerson. They started a turbulent relationship in 2018. He's been in jail, like, 3 times, charged with domestic violence against her. So it's a very sad situation. I think unfortunately she left this earth probably not in a good place. I mean, that's just my opinion. She said is in this podcast that, she had been struggling and she thinks that, she has a lot more life to live and whatnot. And then this happens. So she was with him recently. Yeah, I don't want to like say that he was involved, but I guess she was with him over the weekend and I just, they kept going back to each other to one another. So I don't I know he was also blackmailing her at one point, that he had, like, videos and pictures of her, and he threatened to, like, I think release all of that. Yeah, I know. Not a good thing. Um, they were on again and off again, I'm just reading before I pull up the clips. Very sad. Oh, yeah, he did, I think he did, like, a couple months in jail for domestic violence. So sad. I know it is so sad. So I have, let's see, a couple different clips of her just kind of giving interviews. I just want to hear about her and like watch what she has to say. I think we could all learn a lot from her. And then the podcast is Jay. Did I say that right? Yeah, Jay Shetty, and it's deep. It's deep. Hey, Adrian. Hey, Doreen. Wasn't she married to a guy that was on? I don't know. More toxic than Dom and Ken's. Uh, I think they're just different because Dom and Kenzie were a lot of threatening um and like texting, where Ice 2, I think with Hayden, it was actually like more physical because that's why he was in jail. I think one time she had like a black eye. He hit her face. Her face with a closed fist. Um, I thought he one time pushed her. Yeah, it's bad. She was on Tamron Hall. Did she get arrested for saving dolphins? Yeah, she did. She was I think there's a documentary about it. Yeah, maybe Diamond Kenzie was a slow burn. Yeah, no, this is, like, for real. Like, he was, like, straight up beating on her. Hey, Peach. Nonetheless, let's get started on these. After this, we're gonna go into Stefan Stearns live and then maybe Lindsay Clancy. If you guys don't know who Stefan Stearns is, I was shocked because I think someone said, "Who is this?" Um, it's already scheduled. They're back-to-back lives. Stefan Stearns has been emailing with a YouTuber, and those emails are now out, and they're gross, and it's gross, and you shouldn't support those types of channels, but I'm not gonna tell you what to do. I'm just here to bring you the information, and it is important because we covered Maddie Soto, RIP, heavily on here. We speak for Maddie Soto. We do not like stupid potato Jennifer Soto, her mother, who was allowing her to sleep in bed with this predator. And we don't like Stefan Stearns. So yeah, we are going to talk about it. And yeah, these people shouldn't be having channels or a platform. And no, I'm not telling you what to do. But yes, I am telling you it's fucking nasty. I don't care if it was clout chasing or not. It's not okay. And there's like 100 and something emails. So we're going to go over those. She gave her husband custody of child. Yes. Her daughter, I think, is 11. 11. The documentary is called The Cove, and she is on a surfboard crying. Yeah, I think it was something to do with dolphins. Google says she was never married. I don't think she was. Be back. Love you, Molly. Stefan Stearns. Cringe. Yeah. Nasty. But yeah, let's get started. Let's watch a couple interviews with her. And then I want to get into that podcast. Again, she suffered with postpartum depression, and we're seeing that with Lindsay Clancy. And that just makes me so sad. Um, un- Unfortunately, this also led to Lindsay drinking a lot too. Remember? That was a whole thing here as well. Very sad. Let's see. This is from, I don't know what interview this is, but this was from, it was posted today. And I'll put chat up too.
Feeling, because I think you unpack a lot in this book, and I would think a lot of it would
I
be
did just order the book, so I was thinking we
difficult
could
to talk
maybe,
about. So how are you
read
feeling
it.
as you sit here today getting ready to launch your book tour?
Honestly, I'm always nervous, but this time I'm the rawest version of myself that I've ever been. I'm not walking out, promoting a project or a character that I played or able to hide behind anything. So I feel always a little bit overwhelmed by the subject matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't get easier.
I know, Hayden, let's take a deep breath, because you write about the book Life Quakes, which I like that phrase, by the way. You said it's not about losses. When it's tumultuous times in your life and you've had some, you call them life quakes.
Life quakes, yeah.
And you get through it how?
You get through it by time, finding good therapists, being willing to reflect, check in with yourself.
Yeah.
Really do the work.
But let's talk about your life. You're born, your mom jokes that you came out of the womb saying, thanks, I got it from here.
Yeah.
Which is sort of a telltale about you were feisty from the very beginning.
Yeah.
You say by the time you were 5, you had done 50 commercials. Your mom, from what I read, also was an actress and seemed to take a lot of joy and pride out of what you did too. But it also created conflicts between the two of you. It's complicated, the relationship with your mom.
When your mother is chosen to take the 8-month-old baby to the audition rooms, into those audition rooms, and it went from there and progressed into 50 commercials by the time I was 5. I was on a soap opera by 4 years old, and it said it never stopped, and it was every moment on set. I didn't care about anybody else's opinion but my mom's, because I knew that if she was unhappy with my performance in any way, that the rest of the day was going to be ruined.
Her mom and her did not have a good relationship, very toxic and somewhat abusive, I think, as well. Her mom was all in it for the money. I read she almost died in childbirth too. Yeah. That sucks. 8 months old. She talks about not even she wouldn't have picked this industry. Also very sad.
Yes.
It was going to be a very bad day.
And your mom was tough. You had a lot of, this is what got me, your praise for your over-the-top performances, which you think is a good thing. But what happened when you get the praise for being over the top in your performances?
Yeah, that's something that I realized that I had been crying. Once people figured out that I could cry on cue the way that I did, it was in everything, literally every scene. And it went from being a kid and having to imagine just that your pet passed away or something. But then as I got older, the imagery became darker and darker and darker. And the emotion that I had to hold within me in order to get those trigger tears going. And it became harder and harder to jump out of it. I didn't know where my character started and where I ended,
and where it began.
Just enmeshed.
But what was interesting to me, Hayden, you said you began to associate those the performances
with praise.
Catastrophe with adoration.
Yeah.
That had to be confusing as a young child.
Very confusing. Very confusing. I mean, there I was, feeling just this deep sadness. And then the people were so happy afterwards. And you do that over such a long period of time, years after years, that of course it's going to take its toll on you emotionally. I was like, this isn't healthy.
Yes.
There's no way that this is not taken. And it was. I had to find the right therapist in order to make the proper connections and realize, to realize and to try to heal.
But the turning point for you is when you got the role in Heroes. I mean, you became a household name almost immediately.
Pretty much overnight. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about what that process was like and how your life changed in that moment.
Oh my gosh. Well,
And the spotlight that was on you.
I remember it was 16 years old when I had always thought about like what my first paparazzi picture would look like. And I walked out of my apartment. It was the first time, and it was like literally looking down the barrel of a gun.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling terrified and overwhelmed. And back in the 2000s, there were no boundaries at all.
Yes.
It was rough and tough, and it like no holds barred. And
the way they spoke to you,
the way they hunted, literally like prey.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, so you become famous, and during this time you meet Vladimir, who's the father of your child, who didn't realize how famous you were at first.
No, he had no idea.
So then the two of you get together and you have a baby.
Yes.
At a time for many people, it's just a joyous occasion. But for you, what happened?
For me, I had a wonderful pregnancy. Yes. I worked throughout my whole pregnancy. And I had a really rough birth. To the point where I almost didn't make it through.
Yes.
And then the postpartum depression started. And there I am with this beautiful, healthy, beautiful baby girl and this very fortunate life. And I could not for the life of me be happy. I was so depressed and I just couldn't find my way out.
You wanted to be happy too. That's the thing. You were
desperately
looking forward to having the baby.
Yeah.
And you write in the book, you are not the mother you thought you'd be, nor the mother you want to be.
I had all these ideas in my head of what I wanted to do as a...
very similar to Lindsay Clancy's journal entries, huh? I'm not good enough for my babies, et cetera, et cetera. Very sad.
As a mom, as a parent. And I think I was also, though, at the same time scared because of what my mom did to me, that I might
about being
do that too.
And now
to my child.
Kaya lives with her dad in the Ukraine, and you're here. And how do you describe the relationship with your daughter today?
I'm so blessed to have a great relationship with her. I fly over there as much as I can. I'm on FaceTime with her all the time. She's now 11 years old and she's calling mommy more and more. She actually called me, FaceTimed me the other day, and she calls me Brittany. She goes, "Hey, Brittany." And I was like, it took me a second, and I realized she was talking about Bring It On. Because her friends are fans of Bring It On.
Oh, God.
I loved Bring It On.
Like, oh my gosh, she's now telling me, asking me to Zoom with her friends. Well, so I'm cool now.
Well, I think it's good that you're cool because you've certainly been through it with all the things that you've had in your life. What do you want people to take away from this book? Why did you decide to write it?
I decided to write it because there was so much stigma. At first I said no. I had spent so many years trying to hide as much of my life as I could that it was just a habit. But I really wanted to share with the world that they don't have to be afraid, that they can live their truth, that they can be imperfect, that they can, that's being perfectly imperfect is being brave, and it's okay. And there's so much stigma around the postpartum depression and the backlash. The support was there from people who had experienced it and needed to hear it. But there was so much backlash as well that it shocked me. So I wanted to do.
And it shocked us, right? When this case went bonkers, Lindsay Clancy. Because we've been covering Lindsay Clancy here for a while. It's just how society has reacted to it. No, haven't started the book. Just got delivered. Yeah, I want to read it on here. We read the Brian Koberger book, James Patterson. We did readings of that. I would want to read Hayden's for sure on here. I have not read it. I think it's awesome she's talking about this.
More of that and tell more stories.
And how are you today? Because I would imagine it's still based on what I read, I would imagine you're still going through stuff, still processing.
Always.
How are you today?
Always. Still working on myself all the time. I've got a great therapist, and I'm better, healthier than I've been in a long time.
Ooh, that's sad. She felt like her soul was dead after giving birth and going into postpartum, which led to alcoholism. I do want to say also, like, I'm a little bit disgusted with Neutrogena because apparently she had a contract with them and they cut the contract. I think when she started speaking out about postpartum depression. Um, so that's really shitty. Really shitty. Yeah, it's very sad. Let me pull up. I have another interview. Let me see, because I want to just kind of get into the Jay Shetty podcast. Oh, here's another postpartum one. Let's watch this one. Poor thing. I know. I'm sad. I'm sad. I think that's ridiculous. You know, and in that memoir too, she also exposes a lot of, like I said, what's happened in the industry, you know, them Diddy parties, like all of that. And it's just brutal. Now she's not here.
To what she called happy pills.
Been a fixture on the big screen and on your TV.
It's just a couple minutes.
Has been a fixture on the big screen and on your TV screen for decades. Stealing our hearts is Coach Yo's spunky daughter in Remember the Titans.
What do you want? That was a hold? Oh, come on, that was such a bad call.
And portraying troubled country singer Juliet Barnes in the hit drama Nashville.
Help me get my life back.
But Panettiere pushed her career to the brink of ruin, battling her own real-life demons for a lot of that time.
I'd been struggling for a long time, and I just needed a break. 4 years ended up being the amount of time, and I definitely, absolutely did not expect it would be that long.
Panettiere, now 32, is ready to make a comeback after a long road to healing and recovery. Reprising her role as Kirby Reed in the 6th installment of the hit blockbuster franchise Scream.
Look out!
Filming now and set to hit theaters next year.
Can you tell us, does Kirby make it past the first kill?
I don't think I can, but I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed.
This exciting new chapter is one Panettiere has fought for years to get to. After publicized struggles with alcohol and addiction, she's now sharing her story, opening up in the latest issue of People magazine.
I felt like I was walking blind, and there was nobody there that was really able to support me in the way that I needed to be supported. And I don't like to ask for help either. You know, I want to be that strong, stoic woman. But I mean, when you see a happy-go-lucky girl for years suddenly on the floor in a puddle of mess and alcohol, you got to know something's wrong.
Panettiere revealing that she was first introduced to the substances that would lead her down a dark path in her teen years.
When I was about 16, one of the people that I was working with in my inner circle introduced me for the first time to what she called happy pills. And I had no idea what they were. But I know that when I was given one and I was sent on a red carpet, I was like lively and like totally down to answer the questions and a chatterbox.
What did you come to learn those happy pills were?
I think they were a form of Adderall. I was completely unknowledgeable about drugs and that kind of thing.
Whoa.
I did grow up around people that I felt like, I didn't realize till later, but I felt like used alcohol as medicine.
How long did you find yourself self-medicating with alcohol?
It was off and on, but it wasn't, I would say, until after I had my daughter that I really realized that something was very wrong. And as you know, I went through postpartum depression.
The star was overcome with postpartum depression after the birth of her daughter in 2014. She says the loneliness she felt at that time fueled her alcohol dependency.
I didn't have any negative feelings towards my child. I just knew I was deeply depressed. And I didn't know where, you know, the alcoholism was ending and postpartum was beginning. And I ran myself pretty ragged.
So where did you turn to for support?
The bottom of a bottle. It's not like people were pulling me aside and going, hey, you might want to go to a doctor and check on this depression stuff, because usually alcohol and drugs can be a symptom of what you're going through.
What do you think are the biggest misunderstandings about postpartum depression?
This is just really interesting because you have Lindsay, Clancy, who is just a mom and a labor and delivery nurse. What happened with her and how the public's reacting to that. And then you have someone here who's wealthy and a celebrity and actress, won awards, two whole different worlds. Postpartum, she talks about, the backlash of it. And when was this interview? I think it was earlier this year, maybe last year. It's this industry. I loved her on the Nashville show. Yeah. Being in this industry, I think too, is just a big thing. Very traumatic.
The biggest misunderstanding that I found was that there were a lot of people who didn't believe it. They just thought I was being a crazy woman, an overly emotional female, and that it was my choice whether or not to be depressed. And it was so out of my control.
What did it take to get you to this place that you are today?
It took going to treatment, making a lot of great friends in treatment who can speak on your same level where you don't feel like you're crazy.
How are you today?
I'm good. It's an everyday battle. It really is. I'm grateful to say that I'm sober today.
Sober and connecting on a whole new level with her 7-year-old daughter, Kaya.
I can only imagine.
Oh, this is old. This is a couple years old, this one. The first interview we saw was recent. Many celebrities do not have a good support group. And imagine like your mom just wants to have a relationship with you for money, whatever that is, a business ship. Her mom wanted nothing to do with her as a daughter. Very sad. It just hits with the whole Lindsay Clancy thing going on.
One of the things you're most grateful for is your beautiful little girl.
That she is. She's my favorite little person. She reminds me of what I used to be as like a little kid, but she is like the 2.0 version where she's so much smarter. And watching how she has handled this whole Ukrainian situation is really blown my mind.
Panettiere's daughter, with former professional boxing legend Vladimir Klitschko, calls Ukraine home. For safety reasons, she's not revealing where her daughter is living at this time.
You are confident that she's safe.
She is very safe, and where she is, she also has a lot of friends.
With Klitschko and his brother, the mayor of Kyiv, on the front lines of the war, Hayden rushed to be by her daughter's side.
So I sat her down and I tried to be casual enough about it. And I said, sweetie, do you know what's going on in Ukraine right now? And she said, yeah, I heard something about war. I said, Uncle Vitalia and your dad are being heroes, and they're over there and they're trying to defend your country.
And you took action.
And I took action. So I created Hopalon International to make sure that every dollar that people donate goes to med kits, protective gear, helmets, and blood for the people who are on the front lines.
Klitschko sharing this video from Ukraine.
Thank you for the med kits and the bulletproof vests. They're gonna save our lives.
They are some of the strongest people I've ever met in my life. So I'm praying, of course, it ends.
After years of darkness, Panettiere says she's ready to step into the spotlight once again with a renewed sense of purpose.
Where are you putting your energy moving forward?
Well, of course, to making sure my daughter's okay, of course, to helping Ukraine, but also I feel like I'm getting back in business.
Sorry, it's just me. Look, I tried to call 911, but the landline's dead and someone smashed the router.
I'm getting back to work, and that is so good for the soul. And I just want to keep that ball rolling. I have a whole new team of people around me who are incredible people who really believe in me, and they've helped me to gain some trust back in myself.
Scream. I love those movies. They started medicating her young to work. Was her mom her mom was her manager, I think, most of the time. We're gonna hear her talk about that relationship. It's really sad. But I want to play this clip of a incident with her boyfriend before we get to that podcast, where they got into like this brawl outside of a bar. This was a couple years ago, but this is the same boyfriend that was in jail for domestic violence against her. And then like a short clip of him as well. And then we'll get into Jay Shetty. Yeah, I hope there's no foul play in her death, but I don't know. Something feels off.
Video that we got. This is a brawl outside of a very fancy hotel
Sunset
in Los
Marquee,
Angeles.
man, it's famous.
And that person there in the white sweater, that is Hayden Panettiere in the middle of a just crazy brawl that went down last night that started in the bar at this hotel.
Yes, inside the bar, Hayden was there with her boyfriend, Brian, and they, according to witnesses, both of them got into an argument with another group of people. Someone in that group claimed that Brian had spit on them, and a manager came over and said, everybody out, get out.
So kicked them all out.
So they all got kicked out, and it seems here like they've got things calmed down. Not even close. It got so much worse. Moments after this, as they're all now outside of the hotel, it turns into an all-out brawl, and Hayden is right in the middle of it.
With Brian, they're fighting.
She couldn't get away from him, and the fact that they were together this weekend, I don't know how I feel about that. Should have stayed away from the tough guy who punched a fight. Yeah, no, he was arrested, I think, a total of 3 times. Very, in my opinion, a violent person.
I think like
Against
8 people.
Yeah, it's really Hayden and Brian against the world. Watch this.
Brian, jail! Wait a minute. Dude,
So the reason she's yelling Brian jail, she's reminding Brian that if you continue to pursue this fight, you might end up in jail. Brian is on probation from a domestic violence incident
involving Hayden, where she was the victim.
But
He is
they're
on
back together.
And he's on probation, by the way, until 2025.
Right. So they're back together, and now she's trying to remind him, don't do this. You could end up in jail. It got worse. Then the fight continued, and Brian ignored what Hayden said and continued going toward these people. You see, that's Brian in the white sweater who just got hit. Now someone's on top of him, and Hayden isn't walking away from this. She is right there trying to pull people off of Brian. She gets knocked over. This is crazy. And
at one point in that,
bedlam.
guys, it looks like she even took a foot to the face, too. It looks like she got kicked. I mean, the way this thing started, it was inside the bar. We're told that Hayden and Brian had some words with that other group there, and it was alleged that Brian had spit on someone from the other group. The manager said, you know what, get out of here, and that's what we see happen. Police were called, but by the time they arrived, everyone had kind of dispersed and no report was taken. But you wonder if at least someone from the other party is kind of thinking things over this morning and may do so, because it looks like Brian's the aggressor. The other group had walked away, and he charges back after
Yeah,
them.
I mean, that's the
by the
thing.
way,
Regardless of whatever happened in the bar, once they got outside and it was broken up, for whatever reason, Brian continued to pursue it. That looked like Hayden hurt her face.
It resets once you're outside the bar, and if he becomes the aggressor outside, even if he wasn't inside, he's in trouble for this. And you don't need to file a police report if somebody wants to start a probation violation case. His probation officer, if he finds out about, or she finds out about this, they could go right to the judge and say, he's violated probation. So even if there's no police report, he's at risk here with the probation officer.
Yeah, this is, and it does seem like in the aftermath, Hayden and Brian were walked back into the hotel by maybe it's security. She sustained some sort of injury there. I don't know if it's, it looked like she had hit her face on the ground at one point, and she's looking at her hand. certainly, I'd imagine she got some road rash from what was going on there. But
I am assuming, since they
bad
were at the
situation.
bar, there might well have been, this might have been alcohol related to some extent.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that some or all of the people involved had something to drink.
Hey, it's Pez in Nashville.
That's very disturbing. Now let's watch him talk about the boyfriend gives a statement after she talks about this domestic violence in her book. And then he does like an interview with TMZ. Let's watch it. Getting back with an ex is like showering and putting on dirty underwear, respectfully. That's actually a good, yeah, I agree. Thank you. Okay, so let's listen to what he has to say. Hayden's boyfriend reacts to her new memoir. This was 3 months ago.
She opens up about life in the spotlight, including struggles with addiction, postpartum depression, the loss of her brother, and her experience in an abusive relationship with ex-boyfriend Brian Hickerson. Joining me today to share his perspective is Brian Hickerson. Welcome, Brian.
Charlie.
So in Hayden's new book, she talks about your relationship and she does not.
Hi, Amy. Good to see you, love. Thank you for being here. Appreciate all your hard work. I appreciate that. First time ever hearing this. Yeah, there's a lot of darkness that Hayden has been through. It's actually the podcast we're going to listen to. She goes into everything. Very sad.
Says it was an abusive relationship. She said it was traumatic and emotional. And she even said that she kept a lot of details about the relationship private from some of her closest friends because she was embarrassed by the toxic cycle. What are your thoughts on her characterization of your relationship?
Man, I mean, I think it speaks for itself. I mean, I got arrested for, abusing her, and I wouldn't blame her friends for being pissed off.
What the?
So
I haven't seen this.
I don't really
Dude.
have much to
He's a
say on
psychopath.
that, but
do you understand her experience about your guys' relationship? Do you see where she's coming from?
We've been together for 8 years. I mean, that's a topic of conversation that came up a lot. So yeah, I had a couple opportunities to apologize for it and reflect on it. So I don't know. You'd have to ask her what she thinks about it. But it's you never lay hands on a woman. Bottom line.
But you did it a whole shit ton. Is he drunk? I don't know.
When she was talking about your relationship, she compared it to a weed. She said every time you pull it out, another weed pops back up and you're like, I thought I killed this. What do you think about her comments comparing your
don't go on TMZ
relationship
drunk
to a weed that keeps growing
please
back?
Well, coming from a former landscaper, which I was, all you got to do is spray some Roundup right there on it. She wasn't talking about me. She was talking about her terrible mother.
So you don't think she was talking about how you guys broke up and got back together and then broke up again and kind of had that cycle?
No.
When was the last time you talked to Hayden and what was that conversation like?
I talked to her yesterday.
Were you guys talking about the book or what was the conversation?
The conversation was about the book, and she was, of course, she's worried about it. It's her first book, and who wouldn't be nervous about it? But the only thing I said to her, I was like, look, dude, I was like, you got one of the craziest stories I've ever heard in my life, and when people read it, it's gonna be a hit.
Well, that's great that.
So this is the abusive boyfriend she was with for 8 years. Look up red flag in the dictionary. Dude, is he high? I'm just like wondering. And why is he up there smiling when he says like, oh, I was abusing her? Sir. And he was blackmailing her, like, oh.
You're still very supportive of, her writing this memoir,
sad
because
for
there are a
her.
lot of things about your guys' relationship that, maybe don't
Ventriloquist
speak
vibes.
so well about you, about her, about things that you guys went through together.
Yeah, we didn't have a very good past, did we?
So one of the things she talked about,
No, you went to jail for beating her. I wouldn't call that good.
did an interview with Us Magazine talking about the 2020 incident that happened between you two. And she said, what happened in Wyoming helped push me in the right direction, but it still took me a long time, and I still struggled to fully put a kibosh to it for a while. She seems to be talking about the incident that happened with you guys in 2020 on Valentine's Day, where you were arrested for domestic abuse, for allegedly punching her. What happened?
Punching her? He was arrested at least 3 major times during the relationship with Hayden: in May 2019 in Los Angeles, in February 2020 in Wyoming, and July 2020 in Los Angeles again, following an 8-count criminal indictment. He was booked and held after these arrests before bonding out. In 2021, he pleaded no contest to 2 felony counts of injuring a cohabitant girlfriend. He was sentenced to 45 days in county jail. He served 12 days of that sentence and was released May 19th, 2020 due to overcrowding. And she still got back together with him. I can hardly
What happened
stand
that night,
him.
Brian?
I had a lot to drink, and I got
Oh, okay. Sounds like you need to go to rehab.
physical with her, and I got arrested, spent the night in jail, and that's just what happens when you lay hands on women.
Was it hard?
Am I being punked? This is not funny at all. That's just what happens when you lay hands on a woman. Yeah, bro. That's just what happens.
That's just what happens when you lay hands on women.
Was it hard getting back together after that and working through it?
No, so I think the worst one was
That's just what happens. It's just what happens.
God, that's a big one. It was
So
like
annoying.
it was the one that Alan Jackson, 320K bail. That was a big one, and that one really hit me and my family very, very, very badly. And then after that,
What? I'm going back. I can't even.
and that one really hit me and my family very, very, very badly. And then after that, I think we went through 6 years, me and Hayden, not a single fight. We had the best relationship that I think anybody could ever have. I mean, she was like, she told me, she was like, I think we're just great roommates. And I agree. I agree. So we're just good friends. We're just good friends. That's it.
So despite the trials and tribulations you guys had throughout your relationship, you were photographed together in March at the airport. Where does your relationship stand now?
Our relationship now is, I think it's just a mutual respect thing. She's, she'll always hold a special place in my heart, and I hope the same for her. But yeah, we're just good buddies.
So, Hayden did say that you are abusive, but you have been working on yourself. Do you mind sharing what you've been doing lately?
Yes, I have been working on myself. Shia LaBeouf leads our AA group.
Shia LaBeouf, who's also a domestic abuser. Ah, okay. Great. Yeah, you can't go to a DV class or AA high on rugs and say that you're getting better. Yeah, this interview, this lady is just like, can you explain what you mean by getting better?
Shia LaBeouf leads our AA group, the Isolators. The man saved my life. He introduced me to my sponsor, JJ, and we have a very good group.
How did you get connected to him?
My therapist.
Was there anything about Shia that surprised you when you got connected to him?
Yeah, I am a very big Christian, and so is Shia, and we both love Jesus. And so
I wonder if he learned beating a woman from the Bible, Jesus.
that was kind of like, yeah, the biggest thing for me.
For you and Hayden, do you want to get back together with her?
Nah.
Do you ever think about
That they did.
one day marrying her?
Yeah, of course.
Is it something that you think could still happen?
I hope so. She probably doesn't think the same way, but you know, it's you know,
Do you think it's better for her to not be with you?
I think that Hayden is one of the most talented people I've ever met in my life, and I would be an idiot not to walk away from her and let her flourish in her career. So, we probably wouldn't be good together. I'd like to see what she's gonna do with the next like 30 years of her career.
Has there ever been a part
Wow.
of you that felt like she deserved better?
Absolutely. Of course.
So she co-parents with her ex-husband, Vladimir Klitschko.
He's a good dude.
Have you crossed paths with him or ever spoken to him?
Spoke to him one time on FaceTime, and he was like, he's a good dude. Good dude.
But you've never met him in person, right?
No. I don't think I want to. He's a very big man. Very big.
Would you say that Hayden and Vlad had a good relationship, co-parenting relationship?
You know, you'd have to ask him that, but like every time that they're on FaceTime and Kaya, all that, I just kind of leave the room. You know, that's their time.
So Hayden's mom, Leslie, who is estranged from Hayden, but was her manager for a very long time, she did an interview with the Daily Mail talking about one of the topics that Hayden mentioned in the book about being bisexual. Hayden had said that it was something that she had to keep secret, but Hayden's mom said that that was not the case, and she questioned the timing about Hayden talking about this now. Obviously, she's promoting a book. Did you know that Hayden was into women like that?
Yeah. Hayden is into beautiful people. I do have some things to say about Hayden's mom. Hayden's mother is by far one of the worst people I've ever met in my life.
I can agree with him on there. Hayden, we'll talk about that relationship. And I know no parent deserves to bury their child. But also, if you were not a great mom, I have no respect for her. Although I don't know her. What a great one doing an article for the Daily Mail. Yeah, no. Her mom wanted nothing but money. He threw in some Elvis lips too. The pupils dilated AF. The smirk. Yeah, it's disturbing, right? I just got it. I just got the memoir. So I was thinking we can do a reading of it. Like a little bedtime story with Melly. Tuck you into bed type of thing. Pause. Don't get dirty now. But you know what I'm saying. Because we read the Brian Koberger, James Patterson book on here and had a lot of fun reading it. We did it in like 3 or 4 lives. Read it in his voice, Melly. Dude.
And, you know,
I feel like he's drunk.
I can't. I just can't with her. She's terrible.
Have you read Hayden's book? So what did you think?
Hayden's book's incredible.
Despite some of the, kind of rehashing some of the things that happened between you guys, you still thought it was good?
No, I think it's great. I think everyone should read it. I mean, the domestic violence stuff that I think is like 272, page
What?
272, my chapter.
Oh.
Everybody should read it. Yeah.
How was it for you reading that?
But yeah. I
This
mean,
is
it
lady.
was
She's like, yeah, I read it. Yeah, you're disgusting. But how do you feel? He's wasted. He has to be, man. He really does. At least a little buzzed. Take it from someone that used to drink a lot. He can read. I'm kind of shocked. Yeah, me too.
who wants to read something about themselves like that, right? But
Right.
you got to be vulnerable, and I did it. I did it.
I beat her. I was in jail because I beat her.
Anything
Like, what kind of
before
fuckhead
that you
says
asked
this?
Hayden to keep out of the book?
Yeah.
What did you not want her to talk about in the book?
So there's a story where I was drunk, right? Aiden was standing across the room, and I had a phone in my hand, and I said, Hayden, I said, I'll give you 10 seconds to run as fast as you can before I throw it at you.
Yeah, that would be very tough to read about yourself, but also would be a horrific situation to be in.
Wow.
Of course.
How has it been for your family? Are you nervous about your family reading the book and knowing all the details about what happened in your guys' relationship?
He was like throwing the phone at her. I'm triggered. Yeah, as in being abusive. I had not seen this. I just seen a clip of it.
Family about what I did, and I just want people to know. I mean, like, people do this all the time. It's like,
I'm sorry, sir. No, people don't go to jail 3 times for beating their girlfriend. Sure, it happens.
you think I'm the only one that did that? No, people do that all the time. You saw Apex, right?
Yep.
Same damn thing, right?
This interviewer is like,
it's sad.
You had mentioned the
she's like, that's it. Today I'm either quitting TMZ or I'm asking for a pay raise. I thought I got over my trust issues and then I saw him.
chapter about you and how, it's about domestic violence. Do you think this is an important chapter for not just survivors to read, but also for people that are abusers? Do you think it's important for both sides to be reading something like this?
I think it's more important for abusers. My biggest thing about
Listen, if they were together this weekend and they were using and stuff, like, he needs to be looked into. I am not saying he had anything to do with it. I'm just saying anyone who comes up deceased or true crime, a case, anything needs an investigation before they say no foul play. And of course, if it's an OD, well, they said there was no like trauma, but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. That interviewer has such a strong poker face. Yeah.
Domestic violence is, I don't think it is taught early enough in life. Never in my life did I ever get taught what domestic violence was, right? Maybe if I did at an early age, maybe I wouldn't have done what I did. We don't know. But
oh, not you blaming it on how you were raised and what you
You and
learned.
Hayden first started dating in 2018, and it's been a very public relationship. Is there anything you want people to know about you and Hayden's relationship?
Hayden Panettiere is the sweetest thing in the world.
And that's why you beat her.
It's not about who you spend Saturday night with. It's who you spend all day Sunday with. And Hayden Panettiere is a Sunday girl.
Do you miss?
What? Okay, I absolutely think he's drunk. I'm going back. Can someone explain? I'm over here freaking out. What kind of reasoning in this? What is he saying? Spent Sunday with. She died on a Sunday. I know. But like, does he mean like, oh, I can spend Saturday with whoever I want, but like she's the girl I go home to on Sunday, like that kind of thing? Where's his lawyer? And did he not this is before her death. He hasn't given a statement as of today. But allegedly he was with her this weekend. I read somewhere in comments or something, you know, that is the interwebs, that something with fentanyl. I don't know if that's true. Something he flew in, and I guess he was there when it happened, or something like that. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to that part.
Hayden Panettiere is a Sunday girl.
Do you miss?
What does that mean? I'm going back.
It's not about who you spend Saturday night with, it's who you spend all day Sunday with. And Hayden Panettiere is a Sunday girl.
Do you miss her?
I miss Hayden every day. Every day.
Do you think about getting back with her?
Of course. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't?
Do you have regrets in the relationship or wish that you did things differently? Because maybe there would be a different outcome right now.
Yeah, but all of them. I mean, I went into such a dark place, man. Drugs, alcohol, abuse. Good God Almighty, she's 5'2" on paper, 4'11" in real life. I mean, come on. Terrible thing I did to her, but yeah, you know, she's yeah, love of the life, love of the life. So yeah, you never know what happens.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I think we can say that we're not big fans of Brian. Sorry, dude. We don't like you. She's a Sunday girl. Okay, let's get into the deep interview. Oh, wow. Yeah. I have nothing else to say. That's very nice. So I guess I won't say too much more about that situation.
I worked so hard to create this incredible life and career, and I burnt it all to the ground. Don't believe what you see in a picture. There's so much more going on. So much more.
This is so sad. This is from, I think it's a couple months ago, 3 months ago. I think this was like her last deep interview. Yeah, I don't know what that means by Sunday girl, Saturday girl, Monday. I guess we're all Monday girls today because it's Monday. Or no, so not.
For the first time, I was able to put into words what has been going on for the past decade. I was going to ask if I could read it.
I'd really appreciate that.
Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome back to On Purpose, the place you come to become happier, healthier. News that was a reckoning. Good. Please welcome to On Purpose, Hayden Panettiere. Hayden, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
It's an honor to be here.
I want to start by just saying that when I read the book, I can't imagine how challenging, difficult, and vulnerable you had to be to even begin to capture the amount of life that you've lived in these 36 years. And I just want to acknowledge the courage and strength that I saw in it when I was reading it. And I was so looking forward to our conversation today because I really wanted to learn about the human behind these words, but also behind the headlines and the news that we've seen. I wanted to start off by asking you, what's a childhood memory that you have that you feel defines who you are today?
God, got a laundry list I can think of off the top of my head, but really defines who I am. I think I've been really impacted by the people that I've gotten to work with. And especially when I was at very sensitive ages. Like when I think back to Remember the Titans, as you said, at 10 years old, that experience, that whole experience, everyone on set, it and playing that character of Cheryl that felt so similar to who I was naturally as a person. I felt like that really shaped me, really shaped my perspective of the industry, made me feel like now I know what kind of actor I want to be. I want to be generous and I want to be there for people, but this can also be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to read from your book, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course.
You say in the book that from a very young age, I lost the chance to have a normal childhood, friends, relationships,
Yeah.
and my privacy, because instead of fighting it, I leaned into the talent I was somehow blessed with. And I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think a normal childhood looked like? And how was yours different from that?
Well, to me, a normal childhood looked like extracurricular activities. It looked like going to school, being in school all day long, having a social life in connection with your peers, going home, doing homework, having play dates, having friends over, having those kind of experiences. And even though I did get some of that because I had to live that life and had to be removed from it all the time, whether it was to go to auditions or to go to work, I constantly was missing out on the social aspect of what was going on with I mean, I was trying to be friends with them, but when you miss out, and then you sit down, you really have nothing to talk about because I only had my experience and what I did yesterday, which was I was on set or I was in the city doing an audition, and that wasn't something that I could expect anyone around me to understand. So I feel like I got a taste of what a normal childhood would be. And I was on swim team and I did do gymnastics and, occasionally I got invited to a birthday party, but a lot of the times I was left out. So it didn't feel like I had a normal childhood, normal upbringing. But to me, it was, just being able to be a kid.
Yeah. Did you recognize that then? Like,
I did. I remember school was very tricky for me because here I was trying to fit into two different worlds and I was dealing with this massive world, which is the industry, and dealing with big emotions like what you feel after rejection or not getting a role or a ridiculous amount of praise, an unhealthy amount of praise that you get at too young of an age. And then I had the world that I was desperately trying to fit into as well, that I was supposed to fit into, that it should have been easy to fit into. And I couldn't fit into that either. So I was like, where do I belong?
Yeah, it's hard when you're caught in between two different worlds and you somehow, as a very young child, have to somehow make it look seamless and move through these worlds with taking emotions from this one into that and that one into this. And
and you don't want anyone to see you sweat.
Yes.
Either. You want to you want to be cool, calm, and collected, because being overly emotional around your people that age, like my age, it doesn't go over well. And it doesn't go over well with adults either. So you have to like bottle up all of these emotions.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it almost feels like when you're with your kids your age, you're just trying to fit in and be cool, but you're dealing with these emotions you're carrying over. And then when you're with the adults, you're trying to make sure everyone's happy and everything's going okay. And
yeah, I feel like the first time I really felt like I didn't fit in, though, was actually when I was in kindergarten, and it was brought on by the teacher not liking me. The opinions of the teachers and the way that the adults saw me was rubbing off on the kids. And I can only imagine what the kids' parents were saying about, their children going to school with an actress at home. But yeah, I was bullied first by a teacher in kindergarten, and then it graduated to first grade was the first time I heard anyone say, raise their hand and say, why does Hayden get to miss school and we don't? And that was the first time I felt like, oh, it bothers them that what I do. And then middle school, which is treacherous as for anybody, but especially as a female, like girls are just really hard on each other. And it wouldn't help when the teacher would roll in a screen and say, hey, we're going to watch a movie during class, and everyone would get excited, and then they'd pop in Remember the Titans. And there I was trying to fit in and just trying to find a seat next to somebody who wasn't rolling their eyes or huffing and puffing about having to sit next to me. I was just trying to blend. And then they were popping that on. And I was just like, is this even legal? Like, can you do this to a kid? Is this child abuse?
Yeah. Was it ever clear what the reason the teacher who bullied you was, or did they ever have any interactions with your family? Or
No, I mean, first of all, kindergarten is way too young to really do anything wrong. I mean, I remember the first time she ever bullied me was the very first day of kindergarten, and we were coloring, and they had the crayons in these wet wipe boxes, and they said, wrap it up, everybody close the boxes, and as being kids, it became a little bit of a race of who's going to close it first. And I went to close one, and another girl went to close it at the same time, and it went on her finger. And I apologized profusely and felt horrible about it. And I remember her best friend walked up and said, yeah, but we have to tell on you. And my heart sank, and I didn't know how it was going to go. And they walked up to the teacher and told her, and I looked at her and I said, it was an accident. And she looked right at me and she said, oh, it doesn't look like an accident to me.
Wow.
And I mean, at such a young age for that to that's stuck with me, all of these years later.
Wow.
Not all of my teachers were like that. There were teachers that were super supportive, but there was a substitute teacher who came in and she would call me the big cheese in front of everyone. And she said, what, you think because you're an actress, you're the big cheese. And that's so not who I was and so not who I wanted to be. So quite the experience trying to fit in, disappointed in people. I really just wanted to, as you said, fit in. I wanted to be normal.
Like every kid does.
Like every kid.
Yeah, like all of us do. And as someone, by the way you described it, I had a very normal childhood, and it's hard enough as it is, even when it's, normal. And so when something's making you stand out, or someone's pointing things out, especially as kids when we don't have a clue what's going on, and all the other kids in your class who wouldn't really understand how to make context of this, you need an adult to kind of make sense of it.
Yeah. And a lot of it, I felt like it came out of left field. One of the things I'm sure you read in the book is that I kept the notes that were passed to me in school, the nasty notes, and I kept them in my binder and I kept them under my bed. And I think it was because I wanted desperately to understand what they were seeing in me. And it started the habit of changing who I was to make others happy, to make them like me. And I thought if I could understand where they were coming from or what they saw or what they didn't like, that I could, maybe it was the actress in me and having been directed all my life, that I could change my performance a little bit and it would make them accept me.
Yeah. You also had you've talked about having the pressure to support and provide for your family as well, right? Did you always know that was your responsibility even then? Like when you're talking about this idea of performing, making sure everyone else is okay.
Right.
I wonder how much of it was something you had to do at home as well.
This is so sad.
I want to make it clear that, my father was a lieutenant in the fire department and he had businesses. So I wasn't supporting the family, but I do remember being very young and my mom trying to explain to me that this corporation she set up paid for the cars, the lease on the cars and the cell phone bills because it was a tax write-off.
Right.
And I remember that role reversal being incredibly uncomfortable for me where I was, on one hand, I was still a kid and I was listening to my parents and had to do everything that they told me I could and could not do. But at the same time, I was working hard, making money, and this money was going towards things that I wasn't privy to. So as my dad would kick my butt if I made people think that I supported the whole family. But then when I got older too, and my mom bought an apartment for me when I was 16, and my whole family lived in it. So again, it was just that very strange, uncomfortable feeling of the role reversal and desperately wanting to still feel like the kid and still feel like I had parents to lean on. I didn't want, even when I was a kid, I was scared of the dark, and I would make my dad lay down next to me. And if his head ever went below mine, I would freak out and make him sit up further because I wanted to feel like the kid. That is kind of continued on in my life, just wanting to know that if I found myself in a terrible position, that I could call somebody to help me. I could rely on somebody. I wasn't the only person. I wasn't the person that.
This is so sad when you think of Brittany, Christina, Lindsay, Amanda, Selena Gomez, all of these girls that were in the industry young. And then we find out about the Diddy parties, what Hayden went through. So you know that they all probably experienced a lot of the similar things.
Everybody else was relying on. And they're
look at Britney. I love Britney Spears. I stan on Britney Spears. I've seen her in concert 5 times. I love her and I will always support her. But I mean, she's dancing in her underwear, online with knives and stuff. Let's keep it for real. Something's not right. And this industry is just demonized and dark.
Nobody was there for me.
I don't blame her.
Yeah, I mean, and so natural, right? To want that and to seek that is so real and so natural, especially as a young child and kid. And then, of course, with everything else that you're taking on, there's nothing about that feels anything but what every child deserves and what every child wants and, deeply is looking for. But I know in the book you also write about how there's this sense of what you were just saying about collecting all these notes and not wanting to almost let the kids down and become who they need you to be. It feels like that kind of became your relationship with your mom as well, where you didn't want to disappoint her.
Oh my gosh, that was my entire relationship with her. She was my boss. That's how I saw her. Even though she was the most supportive person when I, did what I was supposed to do and did it well and was the one cheering me on, it did feel like that was what I had to do to get her love. And that was, a tough pill to swallow. Everything was business. Everything was business focused. And I started at 8 months old. I can't even remember a time where she wasn't a momager. Where everything didn't revolve around business. And there were periods of time as I got older where we spent a lot of time traveling and on the road together, and I was the only person there. So I became the confidant and the assistant and the therapist and the shoulder to cry on and everything but her child.
Have you ever had the opportunity to tell her that and to have that conversation with her?
When I was 19, I finally got the guts got up the courage to split from her business wise, because I desperately wanted a relationship with her, desperately wanted her to just be my mom. And so she came into my trailer during lunch when we were filming Heroes, and I said to her, I don't want us to work together anymore. I just want you to be my mom. And I remember being hopeful, but there was that part of me who knew her too well. But I also wasn't expecting the reaction that I got, which was, "You owe me." And that's all she said. and she walked out. And part of me was like, oh, I'm relieved that it was short, like ripped the Band-Aid off. But then it was like this dark looming cloud, over my head going, what does she mean by I owe her? What form of payment is she expecting? And it was disappointing to find out that it was money, and that she didn't pursue a relationship with me as just a mother-daughter. Like once the business aspect was removed, I was hoping that if I remove this, then that there will be no reason for her to be anything other than my mom. And the fact that it seemed like she didn't care to have a relationship with me was a tough pill to swallow.
As a child, I'm sure you were also, even as a teenager, you're still dealing with the guilt of like, how do I have this conversation with my mom?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm guessing there was a part of you that was, of course, grateful. And of course,
yes.
like, but at the same time, I hear your intention loud and clear, which is, I just want you to be my mom.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to play another role in my life. And then to not get that other role, even when that part's taken care of it. Yeah. Do you still not connect or talk today?
At the moment, no, there is not a relationship between her and I, sadly. I've gone through periods of time where we haven't spoken at all. It seemed to me it was kind of like there was no reason. She had no reason to call, and the only reason why she would reach out was when something was needed. It wasn't just to say, hi, or how are you, or let's grab a bite, or anything like that. It's been a really tough road, and I've, no matter how many times that door has been slammed in my face, I've desperately seeked her approval for my entire life. She was the person after every take that I looked to. I wouldn't look to the director or the producers or anybody else. The only person that existed and the only person whose opinion mattered to me was hers. So after every take, no matter what I was doing, I would find her. And I'm sure I made the directors feel like, hey, because I would run right past them straight to mom, and I had to make sure that that she was happy with it and I wasn't in trouble, because if I didn't do it right, I was in trouble. Yeah. It was not a good reaction. But I mean, I've lived.
I cannot imagine. Like, I'm so close with my mom. I know, super heartbreaking.
To please her, and even though, as you said, I'm incredibly grateful. Here she, and I've never had a conversation with her as to why she stopped acting and decided to focus her entire life on creating a career for me, and whether it was just that she felt like I was good at it, which is why she kept me in it, or she wanted to live vicariously, or if she wanted to create a potentially successful future for me. I haven't gotten a chance to really talk with her about that. But I'm very grateful for everything that I have. But it was just very confusing because I never asked for it. And that was the thing. Like, there were times where things would get overwhelming, and I could tell they would get overwhelming for her. And she's a big personality. And I also felt very guilty about us having to spend so much time away from my father, and her having to spend so much time away from her son, my little brother, who was growing up, and that it was because of me. It was because of what I was doing. And it was my fault. And I remember her actually turning to me one night and saying, "You're the reason why I'm missing my son growing up." And, that was a punch in the gut. But as grateful as I was, I wanted to say to her, but I didn't ask you to take me on auditions. I didn't. I wasn't even old enough to, perceive, to understand anything but good, bad, hot, cold, diaper change, food, that kind of stuff. So there were really high emotions. I loved what I did and I had great experiences, but at the same time, I was like, I didn't beg you to give me your life, to sacrifice all of this so that I could have this career.
Yeah, it wasn't your dream. It wasn't your choice.
And I don't know if it would have been eventually.
Yeah.
I wondered that all the time.
Talk to me about that, because even earlier when I read the excerpt from the book, you talk about this idea of acting being a talent that you just leaned into because it was a gift that you were given and then you leaned into it. It's almost like you never got the opportunity to discover who you would have been.
I remember being about, I would say around probably 12 years old and having a total identity crisis. I mean, I was standing in my room and I had been auditioning and acting for years, and I was sitting there going, well, who am I? Which part am I? Because I can be all of these different characters and I can find all these parts in me, and I can become, and I can bring out my fiercer side, or I can be more gentle, whatever the character called for. And they all felt like parts of me. But who the heck was I? Like, just without this, who would I be if without this? So I was very aware of it, and I was very aware that it was going to have an impact on me when I was older. And I was very worried about that. I didn't talk to anybody about it ever. I didn't think anybody would ever have an answer. To it. But I was like, this is going to screw you up as an adult. It's going to rear its ugly head, and it's going to, and you're not going to be able to make the connection between why a certain behavior, why am I behaving like this as an adult? It's going to be very difficult to find the connection to the childhood experience that caused that.
It's a
I feel
lot
like this is totally Brittany with her mom as well. So sad.
to take on so young and hard to process, and hard to know where it goes and how it moves forward with you in your life. It sounds like you were being reflective of this almost all the way. It doesn't feel like something that you've only done recently.
We've covered it because I actually really like Hayden and her work, but also because she talks about postpartum, and we're dealing with a lot of that right now in the Lindsay Clancy case. Hayden also went through postpartum depression that led to alcoholism.
It feels like at every stage, whether it was 12 or 19, when you finally make the decision, did you ever start to feel a sense of choice and agency and effect?
I'd grown up in a household where, as much as I love the chaos of my family, there was a lot of headbutting going on. So when I was 18 and Heroes was on, and we had all as a family moved out to LA, and we were living under the same roof in a condo with dogs and cats, and just we were in each other. We went from living in a big house to living in very tight quarters. But as soon as I was 18, I went to my mom and I said, I want to move out. And I knew I needed to move out for my own mental and emotional health. I would say 18 was when I finally felt courageous enough to communicate that and to start my own life.
Yeah, and did that come with a sense of like confidence and kind of enthusiasm that you had that, or was it almost like a necessity of like, I just need to do this to survive?
Yeah, no, it was both. It was the idea was terrifying because I'm a true pack animal. Like, I need people around me. It's arguably, it has the biggest impact on me mentally, emotionally, spiritually, which leads to physically. Yes, it was survival. It was definitely survival. It was necessity. It was, I need to get myself out of here. And I carried a lot of guilt with me, leaving my little brother behind in what I could no longer tolerate. And I was terrified to live alone. I didn't want to be lonely. I wanted people around me. I was still scared of the dark and didn't want to not have anybody to, lay down next to me until I went to sleep, to make sure that I was safe. So it was exciting, but at the same time, I would say it was more so necessity.
Yeah. I mean, as I was reading your book and learning more and more about you, it was almost like my empathy for you just like grew every time. And I mean that in your strength, for your strength in these situations, not as a sense of pity or feeling sorry for you, but seeing just how strong you had to be in so many different situations. And this, when I got to this part, when you write about this in the book, you write about a moment in your career where a friend of yours takes you onto a boat. You're led to a room which has an older man in it, and then basically told to perform sexual acts. And,
Oh, yeah.
And when I read that, I'm like, oh gosh, like not only have you felt like you've had a really unsupported, upbringing, you're now with a friend in the industry and then ending up in a situation like this. Could you talk to me about what that moment does to your psyche when you're that?
I mean, the fact that I was 18, even though I'd lived such a huge life and I thought I was so mature at 18, scientifically, our frontal lobes don't develop until we're 20, 26, 25, 26. So even though I felt like I could make healthy decisions, safe decisions, I wasn't capable of being fully aware of what was going on around me. And it wasn't until I found myself in predicaments that I realized my perspective completely shifted, and I realized that I was in danger. But by the time I'd realized I was in danger, I was quite literally out to sea. And and it was that moment shook me and was shocking. And I was quite literally walked down, and I had been having a great time. There was no hints of anything like that happening. So it took me, I was shocked. It took me by surprise. And it was led by somebody that I had grown to trust and see as a protector and somebody who had my back.
Wow.
And to be walked down, down the stairs, and it was as like a surprise, presented as though it was like a surprise. And it was this very small room, and she physically put me in the bed next to this undressed man who was very famous and had his hands like this, like this was just, an average day for him. This is something that happens all the time. And I waited for her to leave. And I mean, that lion in me, that fire in me, that my hair stood on end, and I became ferocious. I was like, this is not happening. But I had nowhere to hide. Yeah.
So it was James Blunt, but did he get arrested for that? Or no? That is brutal.
And I bolted, and I hid wherever I could think of to hide on a boat. There was no jumping off and swimming away, and there was nobody who was going to. I realized that there was nobody who was going to be empathetic to my situation, that this was nothing new to them.
I mean, it's such a horrifying event to go through, and to be put in that position at 18 years old.
And disappointing when somebody lets you down like that. And I'd been let down so much before, and that when you really find somebody that you trust, like, you hold on to them for dear life, and you feel so lucky. So to be betrayed like that. It's just an awful feeling.
And now a break from our sponsor, Miracle Grow. Let's be real. Everyone's feeling a little... How do you decide who you trust now?
It doesn't seem like I've done much of a very good job. I don't think I've gotten much better at choosing on one hand, because I do feel like there are certain people that with negative energy and that are just not good people that have been drawn to me for whatever reason, and
money and fame,
who I've not seen clearly immediately. It took me a while. Like, they really were able to pull the wool over my eyes, which you would not I didn't expect of myself, having had all the life experience that I have, and having had things like that already happen to me. Like, you would think it would have been a learning experience, and I would have made sure that it never happened again. And unfortunately, that was not the case. But that being said, on the other hand, I have had amazing people in my life. I mean, my dad has been a huge support system for me since I was a kid. He was the safe space. And there's a lot of me in him. He is the person that kept me grounded and made me, the good in me. I got my big heart from him. But I have throughout the years been fortunate enough to meet just incredible people, and I do have a group of friends that are incredible people, incredibly loyal, and are genuinely good. So there are just a few that have snuck in here and there.
Yeah, I think, and I got to meet some of them today.
Yes.
Your best friend is with you, and others who are wonderful people, and great to see you surrounded by them. And I was sharing this with you as we were speaking before, that sometimes I feel that I think a lot of good people beat themselves up for attracting negative people around them. And the truth is, I don't think you attract negative people. I think when you get so big and large in your work and your career, and you're exposed to so many people, you just come across more negative people because you're exposed to more. And, you don't,
right.
Like if you're only exposed to your town or your community or whatever, maybe you'll come across a couple of people. But when you start getting exposed to a bigger industry and a bigger world.
Right. But exposed is one thing, but then it's hard for me not to beat myself up over letting them get past, my defenses, letting them get close to me, and for how long. I have, it's really, as I told you before, it's really important for me to choose the people who are around me wisely. And I have an incredible team of people who are not just great at what they do, but who have become dear friends and confidants and protectors. And I haven't always had that. And they're not afraid to tell me the truth either. And that's a hugely important thing for me. But it's hard to not beat myself up for certain people, having access to my life that should never have had access, should never have been a part of my life for many, many, many reasons.
Yeah. I feel like when you're young as well, from having spoken to quite a lot of young talent in the industry, it's almost like you're hoping that the adults around you are...
This is literally like children growing up in Hollywood. She is very open. Yeah, it's from 3 months ago. I think it was her last big interview, to be honest.
Are making good choices. And you talk about in the book how you were actually given pills before a red carpet to make you feel more confident, and how that planted the seeds for so many other things that came in the future. And again, you're coming to a point where you're hoping the people around you, especially when you're young, to help you make better decisions, especially when you start as young as you did.
Yeah. And the person who handed me those pills, I had already developed a very tight relationship and a great bond with them. So when it happened, I didn't see it as anything inappropriate or negative. I trusted this person, and it was not. I didn't just have a great personal relationship with this person, but this person's job part of their job was to always protect me, and so I was so used to following the directions of the people that I respected, the people that I worked with. If they told me to jump, I jumped. If they told me to wear this, I wore that. You know, I trusted them more than I ever trusted myself. I wasn't raised to trust myself except for my instincts as an actor. That was instilled in me. But as a person, it was a completely different story.
And at the same time, you're getting this, like, you know, huge wins. Like, you become one of the most, you know, well-known, popular young actors when you land Heroes, and it's this huge moment. And from the outside, it just looks like an incredible accomplishment.
Right.
What's going through your heart and mind when that happens in all emotions? What are you experiencing?
The success meant that my mom was going to be happy with me. So that was hugely important. It also meant that I fit in. That
You found your place.
Yes, I found my place, that I was finally.
That's exactly what we were saying earlier, Jakey. It reminds me of the Nickelodeon era of abuse. The Britneys of the world, Christinas of the world, Amanda Bynes.
Somebody accepted me, and I was part of something that involved other people, and they became my crew, my group of friends. I finally felt like I fit in somewhere, and I finally felt like, my gosh, I made it. Like, I remember the first time I walked out of my apartment and paparazzi. I was about 16 years old, and I had imagined younger, you know, getting to the place in my career where I would get paparazzi, and, you know, what is it going to be look like? Am I going to do like one of those, like, no, don't take a picture of me. It's going to be one of those, like, just like be perfectly, you know, beautiful shots. And it was just sheer terror. I mean, the
When you
shot,
actually
like when it actually happened, I heard this clicking, and I looked up, and I remember it feeling like I was looking down the barrel of a gun. And it was a guy sitting in his car with his window rolled down. And I think I was walking my dogs, and I was horrified because I was like, oh my gosh, that's not the look that I expected to have. That picture is of me looking terrified, absolutely terrified, and probably going something like that. That's not the shot you first want.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's what happened.
Yeah.
You can plan all you want, and God laughs.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but you talked about this. You said this at the start. This idea of just like how your life became used to living for applause, like having to get the applause from your mom, and that.
Yeah, I seen that, Cynthia, on Amanda Bynes. She just sits there on a live for like 18 hours a day. Doesn't move, doesn't say anything. I don't know what the heck is going on there, but she's been doing it. Very sad.
And the community, and then
Concerning.
Of course paparazzi, whatever, right? It's like you kind of see that trend.
Oh yeah, and then it grows, and it grew, and it grew, and it went from something that was like kind of cool to something that was incredibly dangerous. and incredibly invasive, and not just for me, but for the people around me. It felt like the people around, like I wasn't safe. The people around me were being affected by it. Yeah, I was very
Yeah, I agree with Spara. She had so many lessons to teach, and the postpartum experience is one of them. She's one of the few that spoke out about it pretty
protective
heavily.
of my little brother, fiercely protective of the people I love, period. And especially back then when I was 16 years old, it was a whole different ball game. Like the paparazzi
Losing her brother was really hard on her.
life permanently, and he knew this, and he sat me down and had a whole conversation with me about how to handle paparazzi and how to keep your expressions, kind of boring, if you will. But the lengths that people will go to get that shot, and the things that they would say to me at such a young age were appalling. They were truly just mind-blowing and shocking. It was just wildly dangerous, and I was like, why? Especially after Princess Diana, how has this not changed?
Yeah.
How has nobody stepped in and stopped this? This is crazy.
How did you cope? And like, what did you do? How did you deal with all of that? Because that just seems overwhelming.
There was nothing to do. Like that was you feel completely
Powerless.
helpless. Yes, powerless, helpless. I would get in the car and I drove like a bat at a HE double hockey sticks. Like I became a NASCAR driver, and knock on wood, thank God nobody ever got hurt. But there's one time I was out trying to outrun them in a rental car, and I was going so fast down a street that I had to make a quick right turn. I hit my brakes, and instead of the car stopping, it just went for this slide directly into traffic. So I would, I was able to turn into traffic like just in time, in the nick of time. Like I felt like somebody was watching over me, and protecting me at that point. And sometimes I just had to go home afterwards. I went out with a plan to do something, and it wasn't safe, and I didn't feel like dealing with them all day long. So I just went home and would go, you didn't get your shot, but I also didn't get to do what I wanted. When I was living on my own, I remember having to call like taxis at the time. We didn't have Uber or anything up to my house, and I would have to lie down in the back seat, like almost on the floor, so that they couldn't see, the paparazzi that were waiting in the street couldn't see that I was in the car, or have a friend pick me up, and I would have to hide under yoga mats and things like that. I also didn't realize, like, we'd go to somewhere like, let's say, the Grove, how many people were somewhere on like Rodeo, how many people were paid money to do this, to be a celebrity spotter.
Right.
And you think you've fooled them and you got out of there, and it just takes one person to the wrong person to see you, and there goes your day.
Yeah. Well, I believe it was around the same time in the book you talk about meeting Vlad for the first time when you're doing the show, and I was wondering, when you reflect back on it now and meeting him, what version of you were you then?
When I met him, I was 19. I liked myself back then, actually. When I think back on it, I felt like I held my own well. I found a lot of joy in life. I was a really happy person. I hadn't had anything, I hadn't lost.
I know, and I don't want to talk ill of Perez, but I agree, Jakey. One of the people that probably tore her apart online was Perez Hilton. He tore them all apart. Perez Hilton, not a good person back then. Very, very mean. Very, very
people I
mean.
loved or been through anything that had negatively shaped me. So I was in a really good mental spot, a healthy mental spot when I met him. I was full of piss and vinegar, as my mom would say.
And did it move fast? Were you?
Yeah, she said I liked myself back then. I know. And this is just 3 months ago. So that's why she was struggling. So sad. I can't believe she's gone.
Was it just instantly you both knew that there was something there at the time?
He was not my type at first. I mean, he was like looking at a Greek statue. Like, that's what it was like being in his presence. Like, I just studied his face. He looked chiseled out of stone, out of marble. You're like, and he was so big. Yeah. I mean, his features, just like everything about him, was so fierce, and I was so small. But the personality that came out of him was surprisingly gentle and kind, and made me very curious. But I had just gone through a breakup with a co-star that I was still working with, so I wasn't really in the headspace of fully moving past that breakup yet. So it took it was another year. It was when I was 20 years old that Vlad and I actually connected and started dating. I think we were supposed to meet up. I was at the Super Bowl. We were supposed to meet up once when I was still 19, and I guess I was supposed to call him, and I never did. And there he was, the heavyweight champion of the world, and going. Apparently, he was very pissed off that he was waiting around for my phone call. He was like, "Who does this girl think she is? Does she know who I am?" Yeah. He's not a cocky person, but I remember his reaction to that being very, very funny.
That's fair.
Yeah.
As the heavyweight champion.
So it took a year. I met him. We kept in touch, and then actually, my first fight was I brought my little brother to his brother's fight for my little brother's birthday. So it was a very special time. And then Vlad and I stayed in touch, and then started a relationship.
Yeah. What in the part in your book that I found like something that I was totally unaware of, and I'm going to read from it here.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about so while you were on Nashville, you obviously become a mother, and it was this idea that Nashville was almost writing based on your life and writing around you.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about the storylines for your character, Juliet Barnes, and how on Nashville they mirrored what you were going through in your personal life. And you write this specifically: I was suffering from debilitating anxiety and an addiction I couldn't shake, and I had to live through it twice. First at home as Hayden, and then in front of millions as Juliet.
Yeah.
And that really struck me because, I think we all watch TV and film and everything, and we don't really, it's almost like we believe you are that character anyway.
Absolutely.
And you don't really ever know what the real character is until you, and you can in an interview, but if you don't see that, if you only see someone for 3 minutes on a late night show or a morning show or whatever,
right? You have
no real sense of who they are beyond, Hayden and Juliet, like that's who she is, right? Like
on TV, in what you see in the news, and what you look like.
You see headlines and news gossip and all that kind of stuff. You see the TV show and then you see pictures. You're absolutely right.
That's it.
And that's all you get. And this is why I really appreciate just how, I just want to acknowledge, and for anyone who's going to read this book, like you get to see someone who's, I believe, lived through a lot of hardship, but has this ability to reflect and introspect about what's happening. And when you put it that way and you're like, oh, I didn't realize Hayden's going through this. She's living through the reality. And I want to talk to you about the anxiety that you're experiencing. And then at the same time, you're living it twice because now you're having to act it at work. And they're writing around you being pregnant to have the show continue. And then after that as well. And so talk to me about where the debilitating anxiety was coming from and what it felt like to live it twice.
It felt like it never ended. I didn't know where Juliet began and Hayden ended. In the beginning, when I first started doing Nashville, I thought, well, it's just a coincidence that our lives have so many similarities. It must be. And then as the years went on, the episodes went on, and everything started matching up, from, you know, who Juliet Barnes was dating to being an alcoholic, to postpartum depression, to losing her child, basically abandoning her child. And then it was like, okay, you guys are just mirroring my life. And we would get we wouldn't get the episodes very far ahead of time. So
yeah, they're saying it was cardiac arrest. Some are saying a possible OD. The 911 call actually says it was a possible OD. I don't know.
To go to them and say, hey, you got to change this and that, wasn't anything I was used to doing. I was just used to doing my job and making it work. But it felt like the day never ended, and we would shoot 10 months out of the year and 12 to 20 hour days. And I never thought I was a method actor. And I've worked with method actors who, when they play a character role, they never jump in. They don't jump in and out of the character. They are the character for the entirety of the filming process. Shooting something for 6 years, 10 months out of the years, that's not what you want to do. But it was unavoidable because it was my life. I couldn't come up for air from it. There was no break from it. And here I was playing this very deeply emotional, dark character. We had so much.
You know what's really sad is it's her birthday this week on Friday. Yeah. She passed the week of her birthday.
Alike, but we were different in who we were as people. But especially when I was on set, even during breaks, I didn't even realize that I was becoming her constantly, and I wasn't therefore taking care of myself, able to take care of myself mentally and decompress and process what's going on in my life. Nor did I want to talk about it, because I spent all day acting it out and crying. I just felt like I was holding my breath all the time, and I couldn't get away from it. And, you know, you're in a contract, and I became desperate, and I was doing that's why I turned to substances, because the anxiety that I started having the panic attacks that I started having. I used to have nerves a lot, and I had stage fright. I've had stage fright since I was a kid, but those good nerves that keep you on your toes at some point turned into genuine anxiety that made me incapable of functioning properly or thinking clearly. It would make me physically shake. So I was self-medicating and looking for relief at the bottom of a bottle. And it was the only thing that worked. But I needed to numb. I needed to self-numb. I needed my brain to take a trip. I needed to go on a vacation. I needed it to not think about all these ugly things for just a little while. And I didn't find myself able to do that without the help of a drink.
Yeah, I mean, explain to me the complexity of, and I asked this from the perspective of having so many friends who've gone through postpartum depression and it just not being talked about enough.
Yeah.
And whether it be even initially when it happened, I remember speaking to a lot of my male friends and them not understanding what their partner was going through.
And nobody was talking about it this much until Lindsay, Clancy, and Andrea Yates, but that's been a while. You know what I'm saying? I think it's very relevant to what because we've been following Lindsay, Clancy for sure. We'll probably do Lindsay later.
Then to realize that we were just unaware of, you know, the amount of women that go through postpartum depression. Talk to me about the complexity of the emotion of having your baby girl and the emotions that come with that as being a mother, and then the postpartum depression that follows that.
From as a young age, I was dreamt of becoming a mom. Like it was something that I always knew that I would be, always wanted to be. And I had all these ideas in my head of the kind of mother that I was going to be. I was going to have cameras in every room, and I was going to capture this and that. And I was going to get them into all these different extracurricular activities and made sure that they spoke different languages. And like I had this beautiful plan in my head. And then I had my daughter, and I knew something was just terribly, terribly wrong. And now there's a lot of stigma around postpartum, and there's a lot of misunderstanding, and it's on it's on a spectrum, it's on a scale. And fortunately, you know, I never felt any hostility or negativity towards my child, you know, thankfully. But I wasn't connecting with her the way that I knew I should be. And that I was full of stress and anxiety all the time. And what I was doing to suppress those emotions was not normal, and it was not healthy. I was miserable. I was in tears all the time.
Wow.
You know, even though the alcohol helped, you know, my nervous system calm down, it is a depressant. So over time, it made things worse, not better. In a moment or two, it might give you the illusion that it's making things better, but ultimately it becomes it backfires and it becomes a disaster. But Vlad was incredibly supportive, even though he had no idea what was going on. And I had no idea what was going on either, because I had never been around anybody who had ever experienced postpartum depression before. I'd never heard it spoken about. You know, my mom, the females in my life, nobody ever said anything about it. All of their stories were of these beautiful, positive moments of joy and love. And I always say expectation leads to disappointment, but in this way, I had expectations, and they were good, and they were positive, and they were going to be, life was going to be great. And at about 4 months old, I finally went to Vlad, and I said, I need help. I can't live like this anymore. You know, something is terribly wrong. And he said, okay, let's get you some help. I went to a facility during the hiatus of the show, so I was kept private.
Ooh, it sounds like Lindsay when she went to the partial hospitalization.
But I was there for alcoholism. They were treating me for alcoholism, and nobody ever said anything about postpartum depression there. So I felt unfixable. I felt like there was no way out of it. And I was trying to process the idea that maybe I was going to be depressed like this for the rest of my life. And this was just the new normal. So that was terrifying. I had this gorgeous, sweet angel child, healthy. I was so lucky and blessed, and I was just a mess. I was just a mess, and there was nothing that I could do to fix it properly. And it felt like there was nobody around who understood, because there was so much stigma around it, and because it's so misunderstood. It took me probably about 10 months to really realize what it was that was going on, of me researching and figuring it out myself.
10 months. And Lindsay went through 12 medications in 4 months.
Wow, you had to do it yourself. Because I know also you talk about how, like, when you finally did talk about it, you even lost an endorsement deal.
Yep. Neutrogena I was with for 10 years, and I mean, they have morals clauses, which was had a huge impact in my life, because I was a teenager, and I had all the paparazzi around me catching all of these gory moments, like every moment, every cigarette that I smoked, or bad outfit, or oh, she's looking chunky in a bathing suit. Oh, she has a fat vagina. I mean, I went through all of that. They were there for everything. Neutrogena was a huge part of my life. I had the morals clauses. They caught absolutely everything, and of all the things that they would fire me over, this was the last thing that I thought they would ever fire me over. And when I actually went out onto stage, it was live with Kelly and Michael, I had no intention or plan to talk about postpartum depression. It just came up, and I was just being honest. And never for a second did I think.
Imagine you support Neutrogena and they don't support women who go through postpartum.
Think that anyone or cared that anyone would have a bad reaction to it. It was my truth. And so when I got that call that Neutrogena wanted to fire me over that, and my representative at the time said, that's illegal. You can't do that. And even though, she saved the day that year, I knew that was going to be it. That I was not going to be invited back the next year. And I had worked with these people for 10 years, and I remember not hearing a word from anybody, not a great working with you for 10 years, not a nice
hope you're okay.
Yeah, I mean, hope you're good. We wish you well. And I remember that really breaking my heart. I wouldn't change it for the
cancel Neutrogena
world. I wouldn't take it back.
That's dirty work.
But as I said, of all the things that I had been caught doing, that being the thing that
no one should use Neutrogena
was where they drew the line, and it was immoral, was shocking to me. And it made me realize and understand exactly what people thought of women who experience postpartum depression, and how misunderstood it is, how much stigma there is around it, and how, we're already in pain.
Mm-hmm.
We are already like the worst possible thing. One of the worst possible things in the world to happen to a woman is already happening to her. The last thing we need is, the icing on the cake, and feeling so judged and in such a negative way.
What do you want people to know about postpartum depression that you think they miss?
That it's real.
Mm.
That it's not something we make up. It's not something
Lindsay made up. I love this correlation.
We want. It's not that we've lost our marbles, and it's not something that we want to go through, and we're not lying when we tell you something's wrong, and we're in tears for absolutely no reason. Like, we don't have control over this, and this would be the last thing that we would ever want to experience or go through. We want to be with our child, our brand new child, and be filled with joy and feel like the luckiest person in the world, and capture every moment. And for anyone to think otherwise is just misinformed. And I think people need to know a lot more about it. Need to understand.
Did the facility you visited help you with the alcoholism, or what finally actually helped with that?
Oh, I struggled with that for years. It was an on and off battle for a really long time, and getting out of that depression was really difficult. And the fact that I didn't have the time to really spend on healing myself and fixing myself, figuring out, how to navigate this and get back to my old self, because I was on Nashville and we were shooting so much. I mean, at one point I did have to say to the show, I have to go get treatment. You're going to have to write me out of the script, which upset a lot of people and made me feel awful, because I'd always prided myself in being a professional. But
she needed treatment. Like, that blows my mind.
It was incredibly.
Yeah, I know they're good. I know the Neutrogena wipes are good, but no more, please.
Important for me to get my head screwed on straight, or I was gonna, I was just going off the deep end. I felt myself sinking further and further and further into this dark hole that I just could not climb out of.
When I was reading the book, it just felt like the challenges just get tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher as you kind of, go through it with you. And they also seem kind of, again, just as your career in the beginning stages was almost not a choice.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things also feel that way, where it's kind of like just happening to you. And because of, just it's not a choice to bring these things on.
No.
They're coming off, of course, postpartum depression and everything else that's happening through that, and also not having these conversations. Like today, millions of people will listen to this conversation and be able to have a better understanding of what that means and what that looks like. And today the conversation around these things is growing. It's still not where it needs to be yet. And sadly, there are still terrible headlines and terrible gossip and terrible stories made up about people. But these conversations are beginning to happen, and you go, okay, well, hopefully the next person doesn't have to
go through
the fact of not knowing where to go for help or be seen as, oh, just get over it or move on, or there's something wrong with you, or whatever the ridiculous things we all hear are in those scenarios. Yeah, I think it was around this same time that you talk about in the book where the custody of your daughter shifts from, over to Vlad and to Ukraine, I believe, as well. And I feel like that was especially talked about terribly, where there's so many speculations and so many opinions and so many assumptions on why that's happening. Could you tell us?
She went and got treatment, and that's why she gave up custody of her daughter. It wasn't like she wanted to, but she needed to get better. Imagine if Lindsay would have done that. Except her husband or the people around her didn't really help.
That's what was really happening.
I mean, the idea that anybody would think that I would just give away my child and be okay with it is heartbreaking. Couldn't be further from the truth. As you said, I was struggling with mental health and anxiety and the postpartum, and having to act my way through it, and just feeling like I completely lost myself. And I think a misconception is that I have been in the past forced into treatment when in fact I have been the one who sought it out, who was saying, I desperately need help. I know this is going to look terrible, but I cannot live like this anymore. And even though Vlad didn't understand it, the people around me didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. They were supportive. I went to go get help. They didn't know what was going on. And so it became this horrible cycle for years of battling depression and anxiety and alcoholism and substance abuse and me just trying to find my way back, my way out of this darkness. In any, I would have done anything and tried anything. But it wasn't until Kaya was 2 years old, about 2.5 years old, that Vlad decided that he thought it would be best for her to live in Europe. And when that first happened, I did not have a good reaction to it. I went like mother lion. I would have burnt the world down for my child. So that was incredibly difficult. Not, the fact that my child wasn't going to be with me all day, every day was I mean, it just, you can't put words to it. It's just a really intense layer, feeling that are multiple feelings really like layered together. But I realized that, she had been traveling back and forth for so many years. And because I was working on the show and because Vlad had to prepare for fights and as a businessman in his own right, she had to go back and forth between the US and Europe. And sometimes we would go together and sometimes she would go with the nanny. So she had spent a lot of time over there. She had family, she had friends, she had extracurricular activities. She had she already had a beautiful life and she understood the languages and was starting to speak them. So by the time I finally got healthy, I felt like it would have been unfair of me and selfish of me to try to pull her out away from this life that she had been created, that she was living an incredible life.
The life that Hayden never lived and wanted to live, like she said at the beginning. Wow.
She's an incredible little girl, so happy and speaks 5 languages and rides horses and knows that she's got 2 parents that love her. And I know in my heart that she feels supported. I have an incredible relationship with her. I travel as much as I can. I see her. I do spend a lot of time on FaceTime with her. But we talk about really deep things. So we have a really intense, incredible bond. And I'm very grateful for that. And I know that she knows that she has 2 parents who would do anything in the world to make sure that she is happy and healthy mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and she in no way feels abandoned. And that's something that I've made sure to stay on top of and be very aware of. And I think it's also good.
It's heartbreaking to know exactly what happened now.
To lead by example as a parent. She gets to watch. She didn't just get born with one parent in the limelight who is famous and powerful. She was born with two completely separate continents and in their own ways, but she's very proud of watching her mom and dad kick butt and do what they do. She's our biggest fan. I think it makes her feel like she can accomplish anything. You can just see that she is good, she is solid, and she feels loved because of the way that she's able to love herself. And so to watch as a parent, your 11-year-old already have this beautiful ability to love other people and love themselves is, you just can't ask for more than that. So I think there's been a common a very common misconception that I just gave up my child when there is that could not be farther from the truth. So I hope people that are watching this, I hope it's a little clearer, and I hope it becomes clearer in the book.
Yeah, I think when they read the book as well, there's you see so much of the context that I think we miss in everything else. And there's this really powerful line in the book that you share where you say you grieve not being, this was at that time, you grieve not being the mother you thought you'd be. And I wanted to ask you, how do you hold that grief without letting it define the mother you are today?
The grief has definitely gotten the best of me many times, many times. But it's transformed from grief. It was grief in the beginning, but because of the relationship that I do have with her and how things ultimately played out, I'm incredibly grateful to her. She is an incredible father, an incredible family, and I don't feel it, even though it's not what I wanted to happen, and it's not what I hoped motherhood was gonna be or what it would look like. I'm so lucky that it turned out the way it did, and that she is safe and a wonderful, well-rounded person, that that we have the bond that we have, which is it's something that I was terrified wasn't going to happen when she was taken away, that I was going to have to fight really hard to have any sort of relationship with her. And it ended up in a lot of ways being a blessing. I will always want her here. I always miss her. I always want her to, be and to have my arms wrapped around her. But that's just not the way life is right at this moment. But I do believe that, there will be a day where she is an adult and she's able to make her own decisions and go wherever she wants. And I have faith that she is going to come to me and that we're going to have an incredible relationship and bond and friendship that a lot of parents don't get to have with their kids.
That's rough. That's rough.
Thank you for sharing that. It's always incredible how things don't turn out the way we expect them to, and yet it seems like you've found a way to work at it and work on yourself and try to make the shifts and changes you need to, whether it was, with the alcoholism, whether it was getting yourself up out of spaces that you didn't want to be in to try and be the person that you're.
That's the only option to me. That's is you keep getting, no matter how many times you fall, you keep getting up and dust yourself off. And you keep going. It's how what you do with these failures or falling on your face. It's what you do after that really counts. It's how you handle that really counts and matters. And I'll never stop fighting to be good.
Yeah, I mean, you were mentioning to me that also you have a strong relationship with Vlad, which helps this situation. Yeah.
Yeah, Vlad and I are very close. We, all three of us, talk all the time. He travels a lot when he's in Europe too. So sometimes we have a 3-way FaceTime going on, and sometimes it's the two of them and me. But yeah, he's been incredibly supportive. I mean, he's brought her over here. She's known her great grandparents. They've been a part of her life. I've lost my grampy and my papa, but they were able to know her, which was really important to me. And she still has my Nana and my grandma. She calls Nana Super Nana, Super Nana, and she is Super Nana. Yeah. We have a great relationship, and Vlad and I are still best friends. There's not many people who know me in this world as well as he does, and I know that we still have an incredible amount of love for each other, and most importantly, we have an incredible amount of respect for each other. We made promises that something that I unfortunately grew up with was hearing a lot of negative talk from my mother about my father, and that had a really negative impact on me. It hurt to constantly, hear the person that you love be put down. So we made a promise to each other that we would never say anything negative about one another to our daughter.
Wow.
And that both of us have stuck to that promise, and we talk each other up to our daughter and talk positively about each other. And I check in with her and make sure she's being respectful, and that she's loves her dad, and that she knows he's a hero and one of the bravest people I know, and she loves both of us to death. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like it's an intention we all have to kind of repeat the good things our parents did well and try to not repeat the things that maybe they didn't do so well. And it's almost like we're always trying to be, I think those of us who are trying to be on the path of awareness. Yeah, evolve and just say, hey, I'm going to make other mistakes. We all are, because we're human, but going to try and do my best in this capacity. I feel like
absolutely
something we were talking about earlier about repeating patterns and people that we attract into our life. And you talked about this, and you were mentioning it to me earlier. You talked about, surviving your abusive relationship with your ex.
Yeah.
Ooh, I wanted to hear this part.
I wanted to ask you about, because like I said before, it's like every time you go further in the book and deeper in the book, I can tell that you know your truth and you know who you are. And as you said earlier in our conversation today, you were like, but I don't know if I'm always good at knowing or trusting my gut or following through on it.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I feel like I've let myself down so many times and let other people down so many times. And I've just, I worked so hard to create this incredible life and career, and I basically burnt it all to the ground, essentially, and had to, start climbing up that mountain. And it happened, more than once, and having to try to get out of my own way was the most difficult part of it. It was almost like I would self implode and destroy something good that I had going on before anybody else got a chance to. It was like, instead of setting myself up for failure, I knew I was going to fail. So I was going to just it might as well happen sooner rather than later. And it made me stop trusting myself. I mean, I wasn't even raised to trust myself. As I said before, like my instincts, aside from my instincts as an actor, as a human being, I was not I was not taught to really trust myself. I was taught to trust these people around me. It's been a really long road and a really hard road, and a really stressful road trying to get back to that trust I had at one point when I was younger in myself, and how, knowing how important it is that you listen to yourself, that you listen to your gut. Every time that I have not listened to my gut, I have always regretted it. I found myself in a terrible position. The abuse, the fact that I allowed this person not only into my life, but for how long I put up with it. And this is a topic that I've been journaling a lot about it, trying to organize my thoughts and my feelings. And I did journal last night, and for the first time, I really feel like I was able to put into words what has been going on for the past decade of my life in regards to the abuse. And I was actually going to ask if I could read it, because I think it's really important. This topic is really important for me to word properly, word well, and so that the people listening really understand what I'm saying.
Please, yeah.
It took me a long time to finally see the situation clearly. I've had to do a lot of soul searching and therapy around this topic, because allowing somebody to get away with harming me was so unlike me. The more I thought about it and analyzed it, the more connections I made between the abuse I was allowing to transpire and the abuse I've gone through in my past. They say that you end up marrying one of your parents, and no, I'm not married, but I found a very interesting connection between this abusive behavior and my mother's abusive behavior.
Wow.
Even though they would both shake their heads and say I was crazy to think there was anything similar about the two of them, there definitely was. I realized that I was more afraid of being alone than being abused. And in order to be around that kind of behavior, it took me dulling my senses and numbing myself with substances in order to silence that rational voice in my head that was telling me exactly what was going on and the many reasons why I needed to get myself out of this toxic relationship and as far away from this person as possible. Somehow, every time I found the strength to get away from my abusers, they would always find their way back into my life one way or another. It was like being on a hamster wheel in this endless dizzying cycle. And the craziest part and the hardest part was to understand was that the physical abuse would come out of left field, but it was always when he was drinking, same as my mom. We could be dancing and joking, and then a switch would flip and suddenly it was on. Something would snap, and it was like watching a predator suddenly smell blood. I was dealing with this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation. I tried to fight back in every way that I could think of. I took every approach, from standing my ground to attempting to calm the situation to running and hiding from it until he sobered up. Then, once he was sober, that good part of him would be back, and he would see the damage he had done, and he was devastated and apologetic, and it seemed so honest and genuine that I was torn. I thought back to everything I've done wrong in the past and the forgiveness I was shown. So I think a part of me felt an obligation to be just as forgiving. I desperately wanted to make him a better person. I wanted to fix him. I'm a really strong person at my core, and anyone who knows me was shocked that I would ever allow anything like this to happen. I have this bright, powerful light in me that comes on, but then it would dim around that kind of intense conflict. I found myself trying to be smaller and weaker just to avoid a battle, because there's no reasoning with the unreasonable, and as strong as I am, I couldn't physically stand up to a grown man. I know I have a big heart, and I always try to see the good in people, in people, so much so that it's been to my detriment at times. The worst part was that by allowing the cycle to continue, it hurt the people I love who came to my rescue, and I cannot allow that to continue to happen. In order to finally get off the hamster wheel and put an end to the cycle of abuse with him and with other toxic people in my life, I had to remind myself how strong I am. I had to envision the life I want for myself, and most importantly, I had to take accountability for enabling unforgivable behavior.
Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that from your journal. Very, very personal, and appreciate you, letting us in that deeply as you do in the book and in what happened in the last couple of nights, I believe.
Thank you for letting me share. I feel like, that's the first time I've shared that, so I'm feeling the weight, this weight come off my shoulders at this moment.
How does it feel to say it out loud?
When you feel so much pressure on your chest and those that anxiety and nerves, and then you're relieved by something like that, it feels like an elephant stepped off my chest. I feel overwhelmed in a positive way. I feel like I finally did it, and I got to do it in my own words. In this moment, I feel more trust in myself than I have in years. So I got a little bit of me back just now.
That's so beautiful to hear. It's you just said now that in your own words, and I feel like this entire book is a reclaiming of who you are. And
yeah, one step at a time, but that it's been a 10-year dilemma and trauma after trauma, and just to be able to explain it at all, I never thought that I would be able to put it into words.
You said in there that and I think a lot of us, we tolerate abuse because we'd rather do that than be alone. And I think when you look back on that, you can beat yourself up to say, why didn't I leave earlier? And as you were saying, like, I'm stronger than that. Like, why wouldn't I stand up for myself? And at the same time, there has to be a sense of compassion for.
Really? Yeah, I can't believe this is like her last interview. This was just 3 months ago. It's a very powerful interview.
Oneself to say you're just doing the best you could in that moment.
Coming from a good place.
Talk to me about that.
That was one thing that made it all the more confusing to me, is because I've known throughout the whole thing that I wasn't doing anything to deserve it. And that's why I say in that part, like, talk about how it would come out of left field. It didn't take me saying anything wrong. It didn't take me doing anything wrong. It didn't take mistakes or jealousy, or like, there was no catalyst. And suddenly I would be being dragged by the hair, and it was like, what just happened? What did I do?
We just watched the X too, before we started the Jay Shetty interview, and he's a douche.
What can I do to make it go back to 2 seconds ago? Like, what's going on? And as I say, you can't reason with the unreasonable. And it was like the person that you love just was disappeared. I would look in his eyes and they would be vacant. Like, and it was terrifying. And I've always...
Her boyfriend, Brian, who we were watching at the beginning of this, she was with him for 8 years. He got arrested 3 times while they were together for DV. Allegedly, she was with him over this past weekend when she passed. can't even believe
been interested in psychology. And so trying to understand what was going on. I mean, I was like going through the DSM, like in my head.
Look at that. She's going through the DSM. We're covering that in the Lindsay Clancy.
And trying to, trying to figure out, is it schizophrenia? Is it paranoid? It's like, what in the heck is going on? Because it was only when alcohol was involved, but no amount of alcohol could ever make me capable of doing something like that, especially over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Wow.
I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
It was like, I don't know, maybe it was my ego, like he was in my ring, and I felt like I was not going to let him, win the battle. And by me not, the idea, what would be winning to me would be fixing him, being able to fix him and make him better, because I saw some good in there and wanted to bring that to the surface. But
this is Jay Shetty.
No control.
He does so many good interviews like this with celebs and influencers, and he's great. He has a big channel. I'll definitely drop the link after.
For that. And some people don't want to change, and you just have to accept that, as disappointing as it is.
Again, I think you're being hard on yourself. Like, I think, there's all of, and by the way, we're all people pleasers. We're all control freaks.
Right.
We all have all of that in us because of how we've all been raised. And there's a sense that we all want to fix people and make people.
He's like an interviewer that gets on all the, like, he did one with Hillary Duff, Kim Kardashian. He gets people to open up and talk about their struggles in their personal life and
better. And of course, we're working on these things, but we all share this, and but it should never lead to that.
No, no.
It should.
I no. The fact it still baffles me that it ever went there, that I ever allowed it to, that I ever stuck around for it. I mean, it's just so unlike me. But I think that a huge part of it is that being alone piece. Yeah. I had just finished, when I met him, I had just finished Nashville and just moved back to LA, and I was lonely, and nobody was present in the beginning. It was the person that I fell in love with was great. So the Mr. Hyde did not show up until I was already in love with the Dr. Jekyll.
Were you able to talk to anyone? Did you feel you could reach out to anyone, or did it just feel so unsafe?
I felt embarrassed, humiliated. I felt ashamed. I wanted to keep my friends and the people that I loved as far away from the situation as humanly possible, because there was no understanding it. It wasn't rational. It didn't make sense. And I wanted to protect them from feeling the need to protect me. I just knew there was no explaining it without getting the reaction of, what are you doing? What are you thinking? And I would go, I genuinely don't know. I don't know what in me is putting up with this, is allowing this to happen. I really don't. And as I said before, there's never for a moment did I think that I deserved it or that it was okay at all. That was never a thing. I mean, I use the term forgiveness very lightly, because as hard as I tried to forgive, I'm not unable to do that. You don't forgive and forget those kinds of those kinds of things. And it's not just the physical abuse, but it's also the emotional abuse that leaves the deepest scars. The bruises might fade, but you're left with these incredibly deep emotional scars from gaslighting and being made to feel like it's your fault. And I think I was caught at that perfect time where I was incredibly vulnerable and incredibly weak. He preyed on that, on my vulnerability.
What did it take to finally get out? Like, what does that take? Because I feel so many people stay there. How long were you tolerating this for?
Well, at one point, I thought I had gotten out of it and gotten away from it. But it's like we talked about before. It's like abusers, they weave themselves like weeds into your life, and there's always something that they left behind. There's also always something that they have to come back for. There's always something that they find to keep that connection, keep you on the hook, keep that connection with you, no matter where you go, that they will always find you and find find a way to slither back into your life. So I went from, really wanting to keep my loved ones away from it to that's it. I've snapped. You don't pull out a gun and wave it around. You only pull it out. This is
yes, metaphorically.
But you don't wave it around. You only pull it out if you're going to pull that trigger. And I finally decided, that I needed to pull the trigger, and I called in the heavy hitters and the people that were going to protect me and make sure that he had no way back in, that this was going to be a done deal finally. I always hoped that this was going to happen.
Yeah, allegedly it's being said that he flew in to where she was this weekend. I don't know what's true or not yet, but allegedly, yeah, they ended up somehow together. I don't know if it was this week or this weekend. Hayden died while staying with ex-boyfriend from toxic romance. Spotted traveling with abusive ex just one day before her death. Not a good look.
Happened by me one day, and as I said, I thought that I really thought I had done it and I was capable of doing it by myself, but I needed an incredible.
I'm gonna jump to the next segment where she talks about her brother, but I'll link it if you guys want to.
I really feel like This Is Me, this book does that for people who want to understand, what the picture really looks like. And you sadly, you've talked about him throughout, you sadly lost your brother 3 years ago. And you describe him in the book as the heartbreak of my life, always right there in the center of who I am. I wanted to ask you, how did losing him change the way you see all of this? Because it feels like the hardest one, even though everything we've talked about is extremely heavy and hard.
Oh yeah. There's nothing in my life that feels like losing my other half, like the other half that was born to be the yin to my yang. And we were so close, and especially being the older sibling, who it's your job to protect them and keep them safe, and not being able to is, heartbreaking doesn't even begin to cover it. I would need a dictionary to go through all the words for all the feelings that that go through your mind. But I collapsed, and it stayed with me. I know time is the best healer. generally, but it's been 3 years, and every year it's changed. The heartbreak has changed, but losing him and realizing how much of life I was going to have to go through alone and without him, when I always saw him as being there. You know, the day that my parents are not here anymore, I'm going to have to do alone. And the fact that he's not here to be a part of my daughter's life, and the fact that there's so many times I want to call him all the time, and he was my best friend, and like when he first died, I just remember screaming, I don't want to live in a world where he doesn't exist. So I've unfortunately had to. But he seems so alive in my head still.
This is really
He was
sad.
such a big personality. He just no matter what, like he was just one of those people I never thought that anything could take him down or take him away. He was so good too, and it makes you so angry to see that there are bad people thriving in this world, and then one so good that's just taken from you. Why? It's not fair. It doesn't make sense. So that's something I don't think I'll never get over it. It'll just evolve. Luckily, he was an amazing artist, and I have some of his paintings, and that keeps part of him alive for me. He left that behind, beautiful things behind, and I feel him with me. I know that he's protecting me from where he is and was needed elsewhere. But I wish they would send him back to me.
I'm so. What would you want to call the chapter of this that you're entering into now? That you walked in with today, that I got to experience?
I don't know yet. It was one of the hardest parts of this too was figuring out what to call it. I felt like I couldn't come up with a name until I was done with the process of the book. Because sometimes people do it in the middle of the experience. Sometimes people do it. They need a title before they start the process of writing, and I felt like I had to wait till the end. So, I mean, I would have to. I feel like to come up with something good, I would have to see where the book went, see where my life is going to go, because I finally feel like I have shaken off all of this darkness and this negativity, and that means I've closed one door and another door is opened, and I can feel it opened, and I can feel all the possibility, the possibilities, all the exciting possibilities. I feel like I have a lot more life to live.
Absolutely. I think you're one of the toughest and most vulnerable and bravest people who sat in that chair, and I really notice and acknowledge just how much work you've had to do to even be sitting here right now to share your story with this much grace and courage. So thank you for trusting me. Thank you for being here, and I'm really looking forward for people to read this book, and I hope it
R.I.P. R.I.P. Hayden. What a beautiful interview. I didn't even plan on watching. I was just going to do an hour with you guys, but we pretty much got through the whole thing. That was 3 months ago. Jay Shetty podcast, 6 million subs. So glad you're covering this. Yeah, I had to with the postpartum factor of it all, but honestly, It was so good. Very sad. She's no longer here with us. I don't believe autopsy's done yet. I know a medical examiner was going to do what they got to do. Don't think that boyfriend of hers that we saw at the beginning has spoken out. Do we care? Yeah, because we want to hear about Hayden, but not really. Yeah, I haven't seen it. Him release a statement. Very sad. Okay, very sad live. R.I.P. Hayden. Like I said, Jay Shetty podcast. We have another live tonight doing Stephen Stearns. Stephen Stearns has been talking with a YouTuber. Be nasty. So we're not supporting that. We're not supporting those types of channels and quote creators. Should be interesting. So Stephen Stearns was communicating. Yes, Stephen Stearns, who unalived Maddie Soto and raped her. That's the man I'm talking about. Monster. He was talking to a YouTuber. They were sending each other messages back and forth, and those have now been released. We're not supporting that. We're standing for Madeline Soto. No one should be supporting or subscribing to that channel. Anyways, it's scheduled. So RIP Hayden. Thanks everyone for hanging out. I know it was a very sad live, but I wanted to note the correlation with Lindsay Clancy postpartum, how that's viewed, portrayed, and understood on social media as a society and as in the health department, medical field, and mental health field. I can't believe she passed. I know. Very sad. So I shall see y'all in just a little bit to do the Stephen Stearns live. And we'll get into it. Please make sure you guys tap that like button. RIP Lindsay's kids and Hayden. Very sad story. Make sure you let me know if you're a replay viewer what you think of the interview. And I'll see you guys on the next live.